Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Thursdays with the Starr Center. Happy Earth Day, for one thing. I wish the Earth were a little bit more cooperative today and gave us a little bit more reason to love her, but it looks like the sun is coming out here at the Custom House. I'm so excited to welcome all of you, and I'm going to introduce the person. First of all, I want to say thank you to our friends and colleagues at the Center for Environment and Society, who are our co-sponsors and collaborators on this week's program. We love the CES and are excited to collaborate and look forward to more collaborations in the future. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Casey Stewart, who was a moving force behind this week's program and an Earth Day enthusiast. Casey is somebody you should meet if you haven't already. He's a newcomer here to Washington College and to Chestertown. He is the Starr Center's new Assistant Director for Programs and Experiential Learning. He is just finishing his PhD at the University of Delaware and is particularly writing about and studying the way that people in early America wrote about and talked about and studied the environment around them. Casey himself is also all about using the environment to teach students to observe the history that's in their environment. And he is as happy in a kayak on the Chester River as he is delving through dusty heaps of 18th century manuscripts. So he is an awesome addition to the community. He and his wife, Hannah, are renovating a house on Mount Vernon right off of campus. And we are delighted to have him picking up the ball on this week's program. So Casey, take us outdoors.
Thanks, Adam. Can everybody hear me okay? I hope so. We're here live. We're on campus. It's amazing to be here in the real world on planet Earth on Earth Day. In 1970, Wisconsin Senator Gaylord Nelson proposed Earth Day as an environmental teach-in. And so I think when a lot of people think about Earth Day, they think, okay, cleanups, getting out in the river, cleaning up pollution, spreading the word about the Earth. But really, education was built into Earth Day from the very beginning. And more than just senators, more than just politicians, it was students who were really driving the driving force behind the Earth Day and the environmental movement. And so in the 51 years since that first Earth Day on April 22nd, 1970, there's been a lot of changes in our environment, and a lot of things have gotten better. We don't have as many rivers catching on fire anymore, but a lot of things continue to get worse as we see mass extinction, rapid wildfires, and increased carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. It's important to remember, though, one of the key things that the environmentalist movement has brought about is recognizing that people are, in fact, part of the environment. And for today's program, one of the things I want to really focus on is the fact that college campuses are part of that environment. There's no separation. College students, you are part of the environment, and you are a driving force behind making these important changes. So joining me today are Jemima Clark, the Education Program Manager at the Center for Environment and Society, and she's also a rad mountain biker, as it turns out. Also joining me is Shane Brill, the Interim Director of Sustainability and regenerative living. And also, not only is this Thursday with the Starr Center, not only is it Earth Day with the Starr Center, but it's also a birthday with the Starr Center. So a very happy birthday to Shane Brill. If you haven't noticed, we are outside, which is a really exciting thing to do in our COVID era. And so we're here, we're in a space that's sort of adjacent to the campus garden. The campus garden is just to my right. Hopefully that wind isn't picking up too much. But I'm in a space that is going to be a sort of extension of the campus garden, a place that students can continue to explore the world, explore living in harmony with the world. And one of the things that I think we want to remember is that's another part that's built into the founding of Washington College. So William Smith, the founder of this college, wrote a sort of story that imagined what a sort of utopian college would look like. And he called it the College of Morania. And a campus garden was built into this vision back in the 1750s. And so here's what he had to say in his imagination of a garden. There is a very large garden belonging to the college, fertile of everything, fit for the kitchen, and stored with all rare and curious vegetables for the advancement of natural knowledge and husbandry. So that's kind of what we see this campus garden as an extension of a place for students to work and learn and learn to live on this planet Earth as we go along. So without further ado, I will be turning things over to Jemima Clark, who will be talking a little bit about the trees of our campus and our campus arboretum. Jemima.
We're playing the hot seat so we can take our masks off because the wind is potentially going to make it difficult to hear. So hi, everybody. I'm Jemima Clark. I have the privilege of being both an alumni of Washington College and also a staff member here. My main role in this conversation today is to speak to some of the tree efforts and the arboretum revitalization that's going on campus. So speaking of founding figures, Virginia Ghent Decker was the founding figure of the Washington College Arboretum, which was established in '96 following a model established at Mount Vernon. So you may recognize Mount Vernon as George Washington's home. And we decided, or she decided, that to use the existing trees and shrubs as the fundamental plantings of this arboretum. It was dedicated to Virginia Ghent Decker in 1998, and she hoped that it would be used to advance the educational mission of Washington College and to really highlight her enduring appreciation for the special beauty of the Eastern Shore. So we have a 1997 complete arboretum map, and it encompasses the existing 104 acres of campus with over 700 trees and 90 species. But you may know that our campus has grown quite a bit. And so our revitalization of this arboretum will include also the waterfront campus as well as the river and field campus. The arboretum chair for many years was Dr. Rosemary Ford, and now has been taken over by Dr. Martin Connaughton of the biology department. All of these forces sort of conspired around the same time with new leadership and some inspiration from the wonderful Dr. Frank Cregan, along with a team of dedicated tree enthusiasts, also known as the Secret Tree Club. And we decided to sort of conjoin our efforts to update and revitalize the Virginia Ghent Decker Arboretum in 2020. Along with this came the idea that we were already applying for tree campus higher education status. And so all of these items sort of fused together in a big tree advisory committee with a whole bunch of different working and moving parts. So how we plan to do all of these fun tree things is through primarily increased student participation with the trees on campus, including 4 new members of the tree advisory committee who are students and will be announced at the next exciting event, which is the big Arbor Day event on April 30th. We are going to be launching an internship, an Arboretum internship for the fall of 2020 that we hope to run for multiple years to update new technologies that are available to tagging trees and keeping track of trees that have been in honorariums or in memoriams of people who have very generous and meaningful to Washington College. And then the other nice thing about the Tree Campus Higher Education recognition process is that it's an annual renewal. And so there's an ongoing amount of accountability as well as sort of a checklist with a tree care plan that we're working closely with Buildings and Grounds to make our trees native, healthy, well mulched, and maintained to ensure the beauty and longevity of the campus arboretum. In an effort to do so, I'll show you a couple of things. I hope you can see this. So we do have our new plaque for Tree Campus USA status. It's now called Tree Campus Higher Ed, but we have applied for 2020 and we did reach this status in 2019. And then our theme for this year, which was inspired by the Pollinator Partnership artwork, because I love good artwork, and it's been one of my posters for many, many years. Would you mind, Casey, just holding that down? Is this beautiful Trees for Bees pollinator poster by Natalia Zahn. And we got permissions from the artist to use this. And this is going to be our theme, to highlight all of the interconnectivity between the flowering trees on campus and the pollinators that use their pollen and service the trees. So every year we're going to have a new theme for the Arboretum to just help keep things fresh and come up with new approaches of looking at the trees on campus. And this year we're tied very closely to the campus garden Springtime Beauty with their flowering trees. And so I'm very happy to turn this over to Shane with the campus garden.
Hi, thank you, Jemima. So I'm Shane Brill, 2003 grad of Washington College. And while I was a student here at Washington College, I had great literary ambitions. I was going to be an awesome writer and write amazing things. And what I ended up doing was discovering a lot about stories. And I realized that our world is composed of stories, and our culture is composed of stories, and that contains our values. And there are so many things that I just started to realize about how our world is constructed and how we participate in it that conveys our values and the things that really make us human and participants on this planet. So my English major sort of turned me into like an environmental pseudo major. And I ended up returning to the college after graduating and helping students start a little campus garden here in 2012. And this campus garden was founded under the auspices of permaculture, which is a design approach that meets the needs of people and the planet. It basically assumes that humans evolved on this planet and we can participate in it in such a way that it actually improves the quality of life for all other creatures on this planet, including ourselves. And so in this campus garden, we have an assortment of fruit trees and berry bushes and nuts and all sorts of perennial crops that students return to year after year after year. And quite an impressive canopy these days if you were to walk around it, and I encourage everyone to do so if you're on campus. The campus garden program has grown quite a bit. We now have a couple of rain gardens. We have an earth oven that was built by students in Student Environmental Alliance and the Anthropology Club out of cob and local brick. And from that they bake, or within that oven, they bake sourdough bread and pizzas. And they'll top it with wild foraged greens that they harvest at the campus garden and from around campus. We also have a pretty large pond at the campus garden, which has at least 10 frogs in it this semester. We're very excited about. And I should note that this campus garden, I'm describing all these trees and berry bushes and things. It started out as just a grassy lot, like kind of what you might be able to see behind me, like it's just a lawn. And now if you walk through it, it's a very lush, vibrant place. And part of this is because students were very actively building compost from the beginning and taking food waste from the dining hall and from the residence halls, and then turning it into the soil amendment. This created this lush bedding for life to thrive at the garden. So it is a very rich place with so many little living creatures and whatnot, and a lot to learn and explore and discover. And it's a great kind of tranquil refuge for students on campus. And one thing that happened once we put in the pond at the campus garden is we noticed butterflies started coming to drink from it, and bees would. And so we ended up establishing an apiary at the campus garden where we have had a couple beehives and students in learning how to do beekeeping with a beekeeping course here on campus. And from that, we've actually harvested, Washington College campus honey, which is pretty amazing stuff. I'm told it tastes like wildflowers and magic. So it's pretty wonderful. And what I really love about the campus garden is that students can come there to discover their place in the world, and they can gain confidence learning how to identify plants and learning how to take food waste and turn it into fertility to regrow our planet from the bottom up. And they can do so without any expectation of what's going to happen. It's all a delightful surprise, and it's this wonderful sense of discovery. And we're constantly finding new plants at the campus garden that birds have seeded just because they've been attracted by the plants that we introduced. And students are starting to take permaculture principles and apply them to how they structure their lives and think about how they orient themselves in the world in terms of their character development. And it's really quite wonderful. So now we have our eyes on other little spaces around campus that we are kind of eyeing up as like little pocket gardens that we can replicate and have as these educational outposts that kind of convey the values of permaculture and help to make that campus garden spirit accessible all around campus for everyone all year round. So that's my little intro.
Thank you. Thank you both. So thank you both so much. We're now going to open up sort of to question and answer. So feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat. I'm gesturing as if you can see, you know, as if my webcam is the camera, but we're using a much better camera. But just to kind of kick things off, I'm here with two Washington College alums, which I think is a pretty incredible sort of experience for us to be having. And so one of the things I'm wondering is have either of you had sort of like experiences when you were students that led you to work in this kind of environmental field? And if you could share any of those stories or memories that you have.
Sure. I credit most of my career to Dr. Kate Verville at the biology department. But along with that, I would say the really enjoyment piece of nature, not just from a scientific perspective, came from studying poetry with Bennett Lamond and came from exploring art history with Jansen LaPalme and being able to see interconnections between all of the really exciting in outdoor spaces and organisms, and then how people choose to portray that or write about it or experience it, I think has really deepened my love of science, but also a greater appreciation for the people who helped me to see the world as more of a whole picture instead of little silos of information. So the way that we really don't exist in those are sort of arbitrary classes, we exist in this whole great big world. And so how can we enjoy nature and all it has to offer? So for me, it is both sitting and loving art in the museum and then also exploring macroinvertebrates under the rocks and trying to walk around with my cell phone, capturing them on the Seek app. Like my children just love it when I spend all of our vacation doing that, but that's how I would say that. But definitely started on campus with I grew up on the Eastern Shore, so it wasn't like a novel place, but it was a novel viewpoint.
Cool. Well, I would echo everything that you said. As a English major at Washington College, I was very fortunate to do the Kipling Hall program. And that was a wonderful experience, studying romantic poetry in the Lake District in England. And I have so many memories just being on this campus, reading books under shady, like the big shady trees we have all over the place. Like you found it, you know, I would find a shady tree and to sort of set up camp and like do my reading for the day. And like there's so many beautiful like fall and spring afternoons I recall in that spirit. You know, I'll totally echo all the interdisciplinary stuff, and that the academic experience at Washington College very much blurred the boundaries between disciplines and got me thinking creatively about how I related to, you know, other systems of thinking, and it sort of opened my eyes to a larger view of how we participate in the world overall. I'll also say, you know, being right here on the Chester River, it was quite a magical thing. Just, you know, late night walks along the river and that sense of place you have where you're just out there listening to the water and you feel the wind and you see the stars and you're just reflecting back on the day, you know, that you just experienced, but also what's to come, and, you know, looking up into the stars and like, what's, you know, what's my lot, you know, what's next for me. trying to put the pieces together. And Washington College was just a wonderful place for that. And all the faculty were just so nurturing and evoking, helped deduce, and draw out for me like things that I didn't even realize, capacities I didn't realize that I had, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Faculty is definitely key. Let's say those faculty are definitely key, the relationships that you get with them.
Definitely. So one of my colleagues at the Starr Center, Amber McGinnis, would like to know what is the oldest tree on campus and where it is. Do either of you know what that might be?
Thanks, Amber. That's the one question we don't actually know the answer to, but we'll find out as soon as we get the Arboretum revitalized. I'd say one of the largest is the big one by the Cater Walk between the Miller Library, the Osage Orange. That massive tree might be one of the, I don't know how quickly they grow though, but they're a locust, right? So they might grow a little bit slower. They're really a hardwood. I'm not sure. I know the most famous tree was the elm, the large elm on the campus green that came down probably around 98 to 2000. It had Dutch elm's disease, but that was definitely one of the largest, and probably one of the oldest. The other old ones would definitely be, I think, be up by the hill dorms. There's a couple of other really unique trees on the 213 side of the hill dorms. But that's a good question. I will, put that in the challenge for the Arboretum intern.
And it's a great question because this is an incredibly old campus, as we know. So the oldest trees here have seen and been witness to incredible events, and you can almost imagine, what have these trees seen? What have these trees witnessed? It's kind of a fascinating take. The trees provide all of these different benefits in terms of the air we breathe and the pollinators and providing us with food. But there's also incredible cultural value to them. Just thinking about the history that they help us to tell and understand. So, I have my own question actually. So one of the biggest criticisms of the environmentalist movement, and especially the earliest Earth Days, has been how white it was, or is, perhaps might be a better way to think about it. But I will say that the environmentalist movement is doing a better job, I hope, maybe, of thinking about issues of environmental justice, thinking about matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion as part of the environmental issues. So are there ways or initiatives here on campus that either of you are involved in, or that students can get involved in, that address those issues?
I can start with some. So I love that you brought up the environmental justice piece. I do think that on a campus with our history, that it is a wonderful consideration to bring into light how everyone in our society does not have equitable access or comfort in the outdoor spaces that exist, not just on campus, but outside. And so I personally am learning a lot about this approach and am exploring with some of my environmental education colleagues. Taking Nature Black has been a really huge source of education for me. And there's a Black Birder Association, and just sort of hearing a different perspective about experiences in the outdoors and how people interact with their outdoor spaces. One of the ways that I am trying to incorporate this into some of our programming is with our virtual conference for the Youth Environmental Stewards Conference. For the past 2 years, we've had an environmental justice focus day and asking students to explore their own watersheds and areas where they live and think about access and equity, diversity and justice within their spaces at home. So not particularly on campus right yet, but as soon as we get our students back for those summer programming, we will be expanding into the in the Chestertown area.
And I'll add to that, we have a really great food recovery network chapter here, which is led by our amazing student, Elena Perdon, and they take food waste from the dining hall, or basically uneaten food from the dining hall, and distribute it to families in need in downtown Chestertown once a week during the academic year. And it's a fantastic program where you get to see people who really appreciate the food, getting it, and students are making that happen. They're the distribution network, and they literally transport the food to the dining hall and serve it to the people. And it's quite a wonderful organization to get involved with. And also the campus garden itself is host to many school groups that come through from the local elementary school that just reflects all the kids who live locally. And a lot of them, it's great. We'll do little foraging walks with them around the campus garden, show them safe wild edibles to eat. And for many of them, like, they're initially apprehensive about this, like, oh, I can eat that flower, it's in my backyard too, you know, what do you know, but they end up gaining some confidence from it. And it's actually our students who are sharing that information about how to become ambassadors with the wildlife in your own backyard. And they're using our campus garden to do that and kind of cut through those barriers and provide experiences that, you know, the children might not otherwise have the ability to have.
Thank you both for that. Yeah, that the issues of access are so important. Shane, you might want to keep your mask off because I think this next one is for you. I have a question from Susan Barnes, who'd like to know about any native plants to the Eastern Shore that might be growing in the garden right now, and if you could highlight any.
Oh, sure. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so native plants. Not to get on a soapbox, but okay. So in permaculture, we have this percentage that comes up where to achieve ecological resilience, you need 70% native biomass, and 30% can be non-native plants. And what that tries to achieve is having the right amount of biomass to feed the insect populations of the garden that then all the way up the food web, everything else is supported. So right now at the campus garden, my favorite native thing that's flowering, and then so we try to meet that percentage of the campus garden in terms of native versus non-native. And it's also something we're replicating around campus as we replace ornamental non-natives with wonderful, you know, high value native plants. So my favorite native at the moment at the campus garden are beach plums, Prunus maritima, which have these gorgeous white flowers right now. And in a couple of months, they're going to have wonderful little plums that I hope to be working with students who are living on campus over the summer to harvest and do something with at the Eastern Shore Food Lab. Other native things, one of our favorite native plants at the campus garden is also elderberry, just because it's a really fun one, and it's, you know, can have a tie-in with, like, it's Dumbledore's wand and Harry Potter. But it's also a super high value for wildlife. You can do all sorts of things with the flowers, and then the berries are, of course, known for their immune boosting properties. And gosh, I don't know, I can keep going.
Well, it sounds like Michael Hershey might have a sort of follow-up question with that one. Yes, are there some native plants that students could easily nurse in their dorms?
That's a great question. It's something we haven't really explored much yet. So far, we've had a lot of student interest in growing avocados in the dorm rooms, as well as culinary herbs. Though I'm certainly open to ideas and thinking about that. I really haven't given that much thought. We have had students try to sprout Jerusalem artichokes in the dorm rooms, which is a sort of relative of the sunflower. Yeah, so sure. So we could certainly start a bunch of, you know, native asters and things like that. But it's something, yeah, it's a good question. Something that, well, I'll think about.
And I've got a comment here from Henry Eschricht, who says, I remember green space between the Western Shore housing always having little networks of natural footpaths from students shortcutting their commutes. Any gardening around those would definitely make them official trails. So I don't know if any of either of you have anything
I was
to
gonna
add?
say, I think we said that yesterday as we were walking around, that we were like, this would be a really nice place to start. A good place to start. Shane might want to add something to that. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's just kind of delightful. I mean, we see the paths cutting through the space already, and we're already envisioning like, okay, we can put a little rain garden here, and that's a full, sunny spot on the wall there where will be a little microclimate, may push it from zone 7 to zone 8, do something like a fig tree or pomegranate there. Yeah, we're already dreaming. So, and the paths are helping us, that we start by designing our landscape by figuring out how people are already moving through it.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've got a question from Wayne Bell, and you can see it in the chat. I won't read all of it because I've moved over here, but this is a question that's near and dear to my heart. It's regarding the rare plant Franklinia alatamaha, which actually was discovered by John and William Bartram in the 1770s in Georgia, and it is currently extinct in the wild. All known species, or all known specimens of that species are descendants of those original seeds captured by the Bartram. And I've actually just planted one on Mount Vernon Avenue. You can stop by and see it. We'll see how well it does. They're notoriously finicky plants. There's lots of different theories about why that there's only that one stand in Georgia, and why it was never seen again. It's some say that it's actually a northern variety of plants that somehow kind of got glaciated down and kind of got stranded, which is why they tend to do better in the north than the south, which is where they were found. Other species or other theories on the species include that it's some kind of variety of camellia or some kind of tea that got accidentally introduced somehow. But beautiful plants, incredibly fragrant. But do either of you know if the specimen here on campus is still there and can speak anything about that?
Sure.
So for the first 10 years I worked at Washington College, I worked in Bunting Hall, and I had the privilege of walking right next to that tree every single day as I walked up the steps into Bunting Hall. And it's still doing, it's thriving, it's alive and well. If you're heading up the side steps to Bunting, it is to your left, and it has quite a remarkable flower. It just looks pretty extraordinary if you see it in the golden afternoon light. It's just sort of this magical little thing that I've never seen anything quite like it, at least not on campus. So yes, the tree is still alive and well.
So I must be the only person around that had never heard of this tree before. So hearing all of this fun history and exciting sort of drama that goes with a tree, right, on campus nonetheless, is exactly the sort of information we're hoping the Arboretum will gather, that we will be able to not just have the species name and the common name, but a little bit more information wherever we can to highlight some of our really cool and unique species, as well as, again, for anyone who this tree might be planted for. So this is an ongoing effort, but I love that. Like, the more you know about things, the more interesting the world becomes. So it's a fun way to sort of create and learning just while you're walking around.
I've got another question from Susan Barnes, who asks, any plans for beekeeping on campus? I know there's been some, but I don't know what the future holds.
I think the future is great for bees on campus. We're continuing to improve the pollinator habitat for them all around this garden and in our larger arboretum. So we have had a bee campus in the past. 2020 was a tough year for bees as well. And so we lost both of our hives. Catch a couple swarms and repopulate the apiary. Keep bees again. And just having fun with it. The bees are mesmerizing. Like, students will just come out here and sit and watch the bees flying out of the hives, and it's quite a wonderful thing. They really help people, to blur the lines between where our environment ends and we begin, because they're the ambassadors of the life process to bring us much of our food. So
Bee Campus USA.
Oh, right. And Bee Campus. Thank you, John. So we do have our Bee Campus USA program, which is a certification process that basically upholds us to certain standards for continuing to improve pollinator habitat, but also running programs continuously to promote pollinator advocacy. So that's another thing that's just a perennial program we have. And I suspect we'll continue to keep wind in our sails for beekeeping and whatnot.
Question from Sharon Niedringhouse. How can students get involved with the campus arboretum or other tree-related campus projects? Jemima, that sounds like a question for you.
It's a perfect question. So currently we did reach out and we are going to have a larger student cohort as part of our tree advisory committee to sort of address this exact issue. So, and what can we do to support tree learning other areas on campus? This is a little bit divergent, but within some of the curriculum, how are we getting some trees into the curriculum? Or Ben Tillman's Art of Tree courses. Hopefully, and the plan is with the internship to expand some of those tree opportunities and make access to the Arboretum much more 21st century. So digital maps and accurate tree counts. Right now, if they're interested, we are having a large Arbor Day event on April 30th at the Miller Library Terrace, and everybody should sign up for it. If you're a student, it's open to all of the student body. And following that, we'll just keep maybe trying to do a reach out. And if you're interested, email me and I will figure out how to get you as a part of the Arboretum. We are planning a lot more outreach for the Arboretum as this summer continues.
And I'll just add to that a couple little things that students can do to get involved with trees through the campus garden program. Every February, we'll tap maple trees on campus to get sap for syrup that we boil at the Eastern Shore Food Lab and walk students through that process. And we also, this time of year, do a lot with foraging for edible leaves on trees. So right now we have edible beech leaves and basswood leaves, which are just a great way of eating, the greens around you and staying, eating seasonally basically, but really connecting with the trees on campus in a very intimate way.
I love that. So another comment from Amber McGinnis that I just feel like I have to share here. She says that her mother and father-in-law met at Washington College at a pie eating contest in the 1960s. And she thinks that we should resurrect the pie eating contest. She says, sign me up. I say, sign me up. I imagine you both would probably be in as well. And we could use the fruits from the campus trees to make those pies, which is such a fantastic idea.
Very similar to your May Day, yeah. Jane and I had this conversation yesterday as we were walking through the campus garden that we missed some of the food labs in the campus garden's May Day events where there was lots of food sampling. But I think a pie eating contest would be an excellent addition to that event. We did have some apple bobbing at the Waterfront Festival the other year, an apple bobbing competition. Maybe we'll swap it out for something more campus garden-y approach. But I like that, Amber. Thank you.
And just glasses malfunction. Just adding to so we have this May Day celebration at the campus garden, which started with Dr. Courtney Rydell's medieval literature class, where they were studying Chaucer, and they started working with my permaculture interns to explore medieval foodways and how that's relevant for us in an environmentally just world today. And so this ended up culminating in a May Day celebration at the campus garden where we had actual pies, like not fruit tree pies, but we had venison pies from local venison that were in the medieval spirit, that were all sourdough crusts that students made, and we served at this big campus garden celebration. And it's this tradition involving food and the environment that we'd like to continue each year. It was really cool. So I see expanding Arbor Day and kind of reappropriating May Day in its earliest spirit, at the campus garden and through the environment. I definitely see this pattern continuing.
I'm just a huge fan of keeping some of the history alive, but reinventing it as we have more opportunities, including May Day and Arbor Day.
So Starr Center Director Adam Goodhart just asked a question in the chat about what role college campuses and college students actually played in Earth Day. And so one thing I might kind of ask for is if anybody was a college student in 1970 and can speak to this or experience that, that would be amazing if you're out there. Not either of you. I'm not looking at either of you. Don't. If anybody in our audience can speak to that, that would be wonderful. So yes. They participated in, as I said, it was designed as a teach-in. So there were, of course, lectures. There were also demonstrations. There were also musical events. I come from the greater Philadelphia area. I was just watching earlier today. Fairmount Park was absolutely filled with college students who were out listening to music and singing songs, and it almost had that kind of feeling of a music festival. And actually, some of the news commentary suggested that they might have been there more for the music than for than Earth itself. But a lot of it was the energy of the 1960s really kind of being channeled into a consciousness about the broader Earth. So the energy of anti-war, the anti-war movement with Vietnam, and then some of the civil rights movement, though to a lesser degree, because as I've already suggested, it was very much a predominantly white, predominantly middle and upper middle class demographic that was making up those students. But it was all about really changing the consciousness from thinking about, okay, here we are thinking about sort of American issues, domestic issues, or international issues, in that kind of way, and developing a more global consciousness. I think that's really what was taking place. I don't know, do either of you have ideas there? Yeah.
So I think I'm a big fan of future thinking, right? I like the past and how it informs the future, but I like the idea of Earth Day coming out of recognizing or acknowledging the need to really start to appreciate and pay attention to what's going on the planet on which we live, and that there was a global consciousness and also a social consciousness that was adding to or bringing to light some of the darker pieces of our environmental history. And along with movements, the Earth Day and the Earth environmental movement kind of came about in that general time period. And I like to think of Earth Day as not a one-day event, but as sort of a reminder that we are all responsible for the future. And if we bring this onto our campuses, reminding students that their actions and their future also depend on how they treat the Earth. And again, I like that future thinking and that making a difference, kind of becoming involved in where you are living as a very important part of not only the college experience, but of a growing up experience.
And yes, Adam, that photo taken of Earth from the moon definitely played a big role. I know that was kind of a major part, is thinking about suddenly you can see the entire Earth. So that was a huge part of it, definitely. So I might actually want to try something a little bit wild. This is Earth Day, so we can do wild stuff. And we're outside. We're mobile. We're here live. So I saw it earlier in the chat. Let's see if we can go take a little stroll over to the garden. So get ready for a ride. Would one of you like to hold the microphone? Yes,
Sure.
maybe you can take that.
I'll take the computer. This is also exciting.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, away we go.
Maybe aim it towards the card. Be the
Okay.
announcer where to go.
It looks like we may have lost contact with the lunar module here. Let me see if I can contact them via space radio.
Adam, I just connected with Casey and they're trying to reinstate the line.
Okay. We're gonna try this again. I think there's a little bit too much going on here. I'll hold on to that.
Okay. All right. So thank you for bearing with us. We are, as you can see, heading between the Western Reform buildings. Oh no.
Colin, did you want to share the looping video again and maybe
Sure.
we could play
Kind of
that
an intermission as we're doing
intermission?
our
And then since we
field.
do since we do have some alums here, perhaps somebody will recognize folks from the pictures. They are pictures from the Washington College archives and current pictures of the garden. So if we can't get them back, you can see what some of the garden looks like from the video that Colin's going to play.
Right. Let me pull it up and we will be sharing in just a moment. All right.
In the meantime, I will also tell you about next week's program, which is the Lives of Early American Women. So don't miss out on that. It's on our news and events page.
I was going to add to Adam's question as well to say that the Whole Earth catalog featuring those photos from the moon came out in the fall of 1970, the first edition, and features those photos. And I'm pretty sure the roots of that, the founder of that magazine even began like kind of a grassroots campaign where he was passing out kind of pins with those photos prior to starting the catalog, and that might have been in 69 and early 70 when that was going on.
Yeah, if while we're awaiting the resumption of contact with the lunar lander, if any folks here want to share their thoughts, and I'd particularly be interested in hearing from students, from alumni, from faculty and staff, talking about their favorite spot on the Washington College campus and any stories associated with it. I bet Henry Eschricht, if he's still here, can talk about some favorite spots.
I'm tied down with a girlfriend on a work call in the same room.
Oh, sorry, Henry. Henry is a member of the class of 2015, I believe, who definitely was an explorer of Washington College and Chestertown while he was here. What about you, Pat? What's your favorite place on campus besides your office?
I think my favorite spot, a couple come to mind. One is the curving brick path just to the north of Bunting Hall. They might go past the very same trees that were being discussed before, but really kind of the gardens around Bunting Hall. Also, Freddie Granillo's kind of hidden mural behind. I just kind of love the outdoor space around Bunting Hall. That's one space that comes to mind.
Adam, as you know, I always loved being by the water, but what was great is that, you know, going back and forth between the water and main campus, you were always pleasantly surprised. It always felt like an escape getting to the water, and then, you know, going back to this really green sweeping fields on campus. It was a cool balance to have.
Thanks, Henry.
Adam, what's your favorite?
Well, I just love that huge Osage orange tree that was mentioned a few minutes ago by Miller Library. And I'm pretty sure that it is a very slow growing tree, and it's a very, very hard wood. In fact, they used Osage orange when they were building the schooner Sultana to form the sort of braces inside the boat that need to be the sort of the toughest part of the whole construction, as I understand it. And it looks so big and wizened that I imagine it was probably around when George Washington. Oh, here's Jemima. Back to you.
Hi, we made it to the campus garden. So I'm gonna give my phone to Shane so he can take us on a tour. Adam, did you need to finish saying something? I'm sorry.
No, we want to hear from you.
Okay, cool. All right, so Shane's gonna walk us around the garden.
Okay, well, we were talking about native trees. This is one of our favorite native trees right here. This is an eastern redbud. That right this time of year, the leaves are very stretchable and soft and small and lovely. And you can actually eat these things. They're little heart-shaped leaves, as well as the flowers. And later on, if you don't eat all the flowers, they'll turn into little pods, and you can cook the pods and eat those too. So this is a great example of a native tree that has multiple functions for people and also high value for wildlife. But I'll just sort of cruise around and show you what we're looking at. So that's the Western Shore dorms from whence we came. And here's our hillside where we're currently building a new entrance for our compost area, which is right behind these lovely people, where we actually have drive-through composting, where this isn't going to look terribly attractive, but where people will drive up or walk up and drop off their food waste, and then we turn it into amazing soil here, or a soil amendment here at the campus garden. Continuing on, show you a couple of highlights. There's a lot we could lose ourselves in with many things to share. Yesterday, we found our first asparagus growing in this little patch of strawberries here. I don't see any more at the moment, but we'll keep harvesting it. We have an herb spiral here, which has all sorts of culinary medicinal herbs growing in it. And it's a very classic permaculture structure in that it's oriented so that the plants at the top need less water than the ones at the bottom. And it's also are arranged on the herb spiral based on their light requirements as well. We have an earth oven that I described earlier with a living roof that Habitat for Humanity made for us. And a little bee hotel. A pond, but it starts and continues on. And coming around, I'll take you to the oldest part of the campus garden, which is get tons of apples every summer. And students on campus in summertime will happily harvest them as squirrels locally. And adorable trees. Is trying a light regimen where layer of many parts of the garden where people actually dig up. And so we, students learn how to use all these plants for edible uses and medicinal uses, and understand how wildlife uses these plants as well. So another cool sign. So yeah, that's kind of quick overview of the campus garden, but we could spend a lot more time out here. Here's our apiary. Hopefully buzzing with bees very soon. And again, here we are relative to the Western Shore dorms.
Face you. Yeah, hold on, let's click here. And then you should be able to oh, there it was.
All right. So that's Earth Day. We connected to the earth, and then we disconnected briefly, and then we reconnected there at the end. So I'm glad everybody got to see our wonderful garden. Thank you to everybody for listening, for attending. This has been a lot of fun. It's been an experiment. Hopefully we'll do some more stuff like this soon. And we've got more Thursdays with the Starr Center action next week. You can learn about the lives of early American women. So please make sure you register for that. And the Arbor Day event on April 30th. Yes, which is Arbor Day, if you didn't know. And I'll be there, and you can get some cool tree stuff and stickers, and because everybody loves tree stickers. Trees and stickers, that's all you need. Okay, everybody, take care. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.